Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into a really cool question. How in the world do you actually identify one specific fish from another? I mean, think about it. There are over 30,000 known species out there, swimming around in our oceans, our rivers, and our lakes. It seems like a totally impossible task, right? So, how do scientists actually do it? How do you tell one small silvery fish from another that looks, well, pretty much identical? Well, it turns out they basically become fish detectives. They gather clues, they collect evidence, and they build a case for each and every species they find. And just like any good detective, they have a special toolkit. For a fish biologist, that kit has three main tools: morphometrics, which is all about measuring things, meuristics, which is all about counting things, and just good old-fashioned observation of key anatomical traits. So, let's grab the first tool from our kit and get started with measuring the evidence. Okay, so the fancy scientific term for this is morphometrics, but really all it is the art of taking super precise measurements of a fish's body. You can almost picture it like a crime scene investigator taking down the vital statistics of a suspect. And when I say precise, I mean everything has to be exact. You might think length is just length, but nope. Total length goes from the fish's mouth all the way to the very tip of its tail fin, but standard length stops at the base of the tail fin. That tiny little difference? It can be the one single clue that tells two very similar species apart. And of course, our detectives don't just take one measurement. They are building a complete physical profile. They measure everything, from the length of the head and the diameter of the eye to the depth of the body and the length of every single fin. Each number is one more piece of the puzzle. And it's not just about lengths. The overall body shape is a huge giveaway. Is the fish shaped like a torpedo, what scientists call fusiform, perfectly built for speed in the open ocean? Or is it super flat, designed to live on the bottom, a shape they call depressiform? These are massive visual clues. All right, so we've got our measurements down. Now it's time for our second technique, counting the clues. This next tool is called meuristics. So if morphometrics was all about measuring, meuristics is all about counting. We're talking about very specific, repeatable features, like the number of scales, the number of rays in a fin, or even the tiny little gill rakers inside the fish's gills. But for our detective work, the most important numbers, the real smoking gun, if you will, are almost always found right there in the fins. And here's why. Fins aren't just one solid thing. They're actually made of two different parts. You've got spines, which are hard, bony, and unsegmented, and then you have soft rays, which are flexible and often branched. Scientists even have a special notation for them. They use Roman numerals for the hard spines and regular Arabic numerals for the soft rays. This is going to be important. So now we've got measurements and we've got counts. This is where it gets really cool, because now we can put it all together to decode the fish's unique biological code. They do this using something called a fin formula. It's this brilliant, simple shorthand that works like a secret code, telling you the exact number of spines and rays in each and every one of the fish's fins. Let's just break down this example here. D1312. So, the D stands for the dorsal fin. That's the big one on the fish's back. The Roman numeral, 13, tells us it has exactly 13 hard spines. And the 12 tells us it has 12 of those flexible, soft rays. See? It's a simple, elegant code, but it's packed with so much crucial information. And that code doesn't just stop at the fins. There's also something called a scale formula, which maps out the scales along the fish's side, creating another totally unique identifier for our suspect. Okay, so our detective now has all the evidence in hand, the measurements, the counts, the observations. It is time to put it all together and finally crack this case. And this right here is what that final case file looks like. You can see how all the different data points just click into place. We've got the body form, compressiform, which just means it's flattened from side to side. We've got the type of scales, the position of the mouth, and most importantly, those fin formulas for the dorsal, anal, and pectoral fins. When you combine all of this, you get a definitive profile that can only point to one species. Case closed. And really, that's what it all boils down to. Every single one of those 30,000 plus species has its own unique biological blueprint. The trick, the real skill of the fish detective, is just knowing how to read it. So why does all this detective work even matter? Well, it's absolutely critical. You can't protect an endangered species if you can't properly identify it. You can't manage fisheries sustainably if you don't know exactly what fish you're counting. This is how we discover new life on our planet, and it's fundamental to understanding the health of our amazing aquatic ecosystems. So the next time you see a fish, just remember that hidden code it carries in its fins, its scales, and its shape. And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? With scientists still discovering brand new species every single year, what other mysteries, what other amazing biological blueprints are still waiting for us down at the bottom of the sea?